Hey team, so welcome back. I know that you're probably wondering why is this video so long and what does that mean for this particular PD? Well, this is a refresher and we try to cram 3 of the different tools into one video, but you don't have to watch the whole thing. What we did is we added this timestamp here so you can skip around to the different pieces that you might want. So if you're not interested in Seesaw because you've already done it or you feel comfortable or it doesn't pertain to you because you're not going to try it in your classroom, you can skip that. Or maybe you want to go ahead and just go right to Google Classroom because you know that that's something that you need help on and we want a refresher on what that was and how you get that started. So you have those timestamps there. Finally, we're going to talk about Zoom. During our PD with KidGrit and some of the features that were mentioned, there were so many questions about how do I do this with Zoom or how do I accomplish this task. They wanted a more in-depth version of breakout rooms and things like that. So that's what this PD will offer. You can skip around to whatever section makes sense for you, and then you can go ahead and pause and rewind as you will. So let's get started.
Let's review some basics from last year regarding posting classwork, sending announcements, and using the activity library. This year we have some exciting news for our TK to 3rd grade students. This year they'll be automatically placed into your Seesaw classes. We will have a true sync between Clever and Seesaw. The students in your class rosters in Synergy will be automatically loaded into your classes via Seesaw. All your students have to do is log into Clever with their Google account, click on the Seesaw icon, and they'll be taken directly to your Seesaw class and automatically logged in. If you are new to Seesaw, you're going to head over to app.seesaw.me. This will be the initial page. You want to select I'm a teacher. Once you go through there, you'll either be prompted to sign in, as in this is my default because I've used it before. If not, it'll take you to create an account. Please be sure to sign in with Teacher Sign Up with Google. Even when you go after you create your account, even with the sign in, always select on Teacher Sign In with Google. Then it'll bring up your Google account. So you want to ensure that you select your district Google account to log in, and once you go through, it logs in. You will get your classes on the left side here, so you can see it says Bhavani Patel, and there's a few classes here. So if this is your first time, you want to create new class, you want to select that. You have the option to import from Google Classroom, or you can name and start. So for today's example, I'm going to show, and as a tip, I do recommend putting the year. And again, I'm going to demo it as if I was not TK to 3rd grade because this will already be created in there. Other grade levels, you'll select your grade. We'll click on the check mark, and this is your brand new class. So now for you to get your students logged in, you want to go ahead and click on students. So this part is important. It says add students to class. Do you want students to sign into Seesaw using their Google account or email address? We want to click on yes because we are going to be using Clever. It'll be the easiest method. So as soon as your students sign into Clever with their Google account, they can click on Seesaw and then sign in with Google that way as well. So I'm going to click on yes. Here are some things to pay attention to. It goes through the directions so you can send this to your students of how they would sign in. Again, we want to use a communication tool. For example, if you don't have a platform already, please use the Synergy communication. Here's something to keep in mind, this code. So type this code in to join your class. Students will only use this code once. That means the first time the students log into Clever and they go through Seesaw from Clever, they will be asked to put this code in. Keep in mind right here, it says expires August 5th. So for security reasons for Seesaw, their codes do expire 7 days. So that will be a little tricky if your students don't log in since the time you've created this code will expire. And then you have the option right here to email students with instructions. So once I click on that, it shows the message and all I have to do is copy and paste this message into an email. So whether I'm using Synergy Communication or if I'm using Class Dojo, whatever communication platform you have, you can send this to your parents to help the students get logged in. So this is the login process we're going to use for students that are not TK to 3. Those will automatically be logged in. This is for any other grade level. In order to send invites, I need to be logged into my Seesaw account, and I want to go towards the bottom where it says families. So again, this will be part of the onboarding process to get your parents connected to the Seesaw accounts. So once I click on families, you'll see that this is a demo account. So you'll see their sample students on the left, and there's a spot for me to enter in their email address or their mobile number. Again, I'm going to use Synergy Communication to find that information. So I can go through and type their email in. You'll notice on invite status, it'll say that the invite was sent, which parents are connected, and which parents are not connected. Your options are up here to invite family members. You can print invites, and once you do that, you do have a drop-down menu to select the appropriate language. And then when you'll get it as a PDF, and you'll see that it's for each individual child. It's their family invite, so it's a QR code, and it also tells them how they can connect to the family app from their smartphone. It does work on iOS and Android, or how they can connect with the link from their computer. So that's one way to connect with them, as I said, or you can email. And the third way also is share an invite link. If I click on that, it says copy and share this invite link. So again, you can use it in another communication platform form that you prefer. You have this link right here that you can copy. It does say right here that they can set up their own accounts by clicking on this link and choosing their child. Once they've set up, they will be prompted to be approved by you as a teacher for each student. You are able to invite up to 10 family members per child. So this is one way where we can onboard our parents and have them join our Seesaw, is by using their email or phone number, sending a link, or sending paper invites with the QR code as well. Again, this is a quick way to invite parents to join our Seesaw classes. As a refresher, to post into the student journals, you want to be logged into your Seesaw account. We always go to the green plus sign to add, and you have the option from here to post to student work, to assign activity, or send an announcement. For post to student work, you have your same options that we had last year. You have photo, drawing, video. You can upload a file, photo, or video, note, and a link if you were going to send websites to students or links to different documents. So that would be the options you can do to post to student work. Your next option was to assign an activity. And so this was a review of, there was plenty of activities in our activity library. You have 3 sections. You have My Library, School and District, and Community. You may not have access to School and District depending on your account. Remember, TK to 3rd grade, teachers have access to the premium account for Seesaw. This is an activity library that has been created by other teachers and TOSAs in our district. So you can see it says My School and District. Here are the kindergarten activities. There's 283. I can go up to the top and sort by grade level. So I can click which grade level I'm interested in. You can sort by the subject area. You can go to the next one and sort by schools as well. Or you can go through, you can see that I have everyone's because I'm considered one of the administrators on the account. So depending on your access level, you may have different options that show up here. I wanted to show you the community one. This is built by other educators and they're openly shared. So you have various topics here that I can start with, or as always, I can start the search by grade level and by subject area. So for today's example, I'm going to click on this first one that says Getting Started with Seesaw in Kindergarten. So I can click on there and I can see some sample activities that are there. So maybe I wanted to do the activity 3, Get to Know You. So I can click on it. It'll open it up. It shows me the directions. There's teacher notes that the educator that created gave a little background on it. And then it shows you how many teachers liked it, what it's compatible with. So if this is something I like, and you can see that the author is by Seesaw themselves, I can go ahead and heart, and if I heart it, that means it adds it to my library automatically, or I can assign it directly from here. So if I click on Assign, I can choose the class that I want it to go to, and all I have to do is click Assign. And now that activity is being assigned to my students, and it goes over the directions. The students will sign in, and then they can go in and they can respond. So this is basically how we use the activity library. Again, you have my library. So these are ones that you personally have favorited. And then if there's something that you favorite yourself, you can go ahead and open it up. You can see that this was an example of a Monday reflection. It was just something easy for 2 things I learned today. I have the edit option, so I can go through and click on the 3 dots, and I can copy and edit the activity. So if I go through and add something to my library, that gives me the opportunity to edit that assignment. So that's a good tip to keep in mind. Of you can always start searching in the community, and then if you find an activity, always go ahead and you can click on that little heart, add it to your library, and then you can edit. So that's the basics of using the activity library. And the last thing that we can do is we can create announcements and send announcements. So for that, I can click on send announcement, and I have the option here of who do I want to send the announcement to. So if I click on the arrow, does it go to all my students, to all family members, or do I want that message to go to all students and family members? And here is where I can write and type out my announcement, and I can also attach any of these tools. So if I had some sort of file I wanted to attach, I can attach it here. And once you have that, and you can just press send now. So those are the 3 basic ways that we're going to use Seesaw to be able to post. So post student work, assign activities, or send announcements. You will get notifications when students have completed their work. You are able to approve, delete, and leave comments on student work. If you use Seesaw on a mobile app, please make sure the app is updated so you have the newest updates. Today we'll be exploring how to add videos to the canvas. Canvas is what Seesaw formerly used to call the drawing tool. We'll also be going over how to add multiple links and how to use the draw and record tool across multiple pages for the Seesaw for Schools accounts. You're able to create a video right within Seesaw by tapping here. For the newest update, which is in the canvas, or also known as the drawing, we're going to click on here to open that up, and the newest update allows us to create videos and embed them directly in here. So if I go to the camera icon, you'll see that you can upload and take a photo. You can upload it and create a video. I have one already on my desktop for an example today, so I'm going to upload that one. This essentially was a video of me going over sight words. So that's a video that I can put right in here, and I can move it around, and I can use and drag the edges and place that video anywhere in here. Now this is a great update because this allows me to make multimedia in one spot and increase engagement in terms of, instead of having to have students go to a different location to watch a video and how to do this, I can put that right in here. So this is me recording myself. I'm talking to the students. I'm going over sight words, and we're spelling and saying them. So an example would be to create this as an activity. I can use these features that are right within the drawing tool and make an activity for students to do. So here is an example. This is an example of the sight words with the video that I created, essentially. And then these are the directions that I have for my students to do. They have to watch the video, say and spell the words with me, and then right here on this canvas is where they'll type or they'll write their words below using the tools that are right within the drawing tool. Now if I wanted to go ahead and make a screencast of this and maybe record this for my students who have trouble reading these directions, then I can go through right here and click on the microphone, and then it says record your voice, and so I can start recording. So over here, good morning boys and girls. Today we're going to practice our sight words. Please watch the video. You're going to follow along with me, and we're going to say and spell the words together. And when you're done, please type or write them below. Once I'm done, I'll go ahead and I'll click on the done button right here. And now this essentially is a screencast of that. Now if I click on it, you can see that it adds it right onto the canvas, and I can go ahead and move it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 3 dots, the dots on the edges, and take that screencast recording and minimize it. And I'm going to lay it right here as well. And so essentially, when I push this out to students, if they're not sure what to do, this has that recording that's me talking to them, telling them how they're going to use it. If you wanted it in a different spot, you can move it. I can go ahead and still add directions on it, and I can say, watch this first. And then I'm going to use my tool to move it, and maybe I want to make that in a different color or something that pops out a little bit more. Then I have that there, and so then the students know that, okay, this is what we need to watch to know what the directions are, and then they can interact here. So this is a great feature of using this with students to be able to put videos right within Seesaw. The next update is about being able to add multiple links here. So I can embed links. I can go ahead and click on the three dots within the canvas or the drawing tool, and you'll see an option now for link. So I can go ahead and copy and paste a link and add it in, and it may take a few seconds to load. So let's say this is a fluency passage I want my students to read. As always, I can resize and move it where I'd like, but now I can add another link in here as well. So for example, let's say I want to embed a timer right within here. I can go to YouTube, find a timer that I like, and I can again go to my three dots, link, paste it, and now you can embed a YouTube video, which for this example I'm using as a timer, and the students are able to turn on the timer and practice reading. So this is an example of adding multiple links. Here is another example. For example, I made one for doing Wellness Wednesdays, and these are links to other videos. For example, I borrowed these from Grace from Kid Grit, and so if I wanted my students to have a choice, I can create essentially a choice board with multiple links. So again, another update with Seesaw, being able to add multiple links into your canvas. The next update I'm going to show is for our paid accounts. Now with our paid accounts, when we create multiple pages, we're able to link between. So here's an example of an assignment that I'd be creating where I want students to be able to watch a video, read an article, and maybe explore. And so because I'm going to create multiple pages, so you can see this is the first page, then I have an activity set up on the second page for students to drag and drop. I've embedded the video for them to watch for the life cycle of a butterfly, and then they'll go through and drag and drop in the correct order. So if I wanted to link, now I can link from multiple pages. So for example, I can click on this show what you learned, and you'll see the three dots, and this is where that new feature is. If you click on it, you can add link. So now I've showed previously that you could link to outside resources. Here's the new option of where you can link to pages. So I can go ahead and click on page 2. So that means when the students are working here, they'll click on this link and it'll automatically take them to the assignment on page 2. So this allows for you to create links in between your posts as well. So an example of using this would be something great for hyperdocs type of activity where students can go to multiple places. Do keep in mind that if you link to outside sources, you will have to have the kids come back into Seesaw to keep working. So that's a little tip to keep in mind. But again, you're now able to link in multiple page posts. Also, another tip is you do have the option when you click on the three dots, you can lock certain things. So that means accidentally, so the students don't delete. So for example, if I was going to go ahead and take this video right here and I don't want students to delete, I do want to go ahead and click on the three dots, and I do want to lock that. That means that now the students won't be able to delete that on accident. So these were just some of the newest updates for Seesaw. You can find additional resources at our PSUSD Seesaw Hub. You can find tutorials, reference guides. There is a section for family connection. So if you would like to send tutorials home for parents or students, There's some videos in English and Spanish available that might be helpful to help students and parents start off with Seesaw. There's also a section for professional development if you're looking for further PD on Seesaw. And there's also reference guides as well. So please be sure to bookmark this bit.ly for our Seesaw Hub. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Ursula Fabiano here to walk you through Google Classroom for your 2021 school year. We had a training on Google Classroom last spring, so this is kind of a refresher course to get you resituated with your Google Classroom and hopefully show you some new things that you may not know, or maybe something that you forgot. So I'm here at Google Classroom already. To get there, all you have to do, and I'll just go ahead and open a new tab to show you, is go to classroom.google.com, and that'll take you to your home page. If you had classes from last year or any years previously, those will pop up on your screen. If for some reason you don't want one of your classrooms that you previously had, all you have to do is click on those 3 dots there, and if you're enrolled in it, you can unenroll, or if you're the owner, you can archive it. So that's just on those 3 dots there. If you accidentally archive a classroom, if you click on those 3 lines on the side, you can scroll down all the way down, and you'll see at the bottom it says archived classes. If you click there, you'll get the chance to move them back or restore them if you accidentally deleted those. So to get back to your main page, again, you just click on those 3 lines, and I'm going back to my classes. All right, so once I get here and I'm ready to start a new class for the 2021 school year, I'm going to click create or join a class here. If for some reason you don't see create as one of your options, please let us know so we can add you as a teacher. So I'm going to go ahead and create a class, and this is just going to be my test class for you guys for the 2021 school year. You have to name your class. You don't have to put a section or subject or room number. Those are optional. That's just if you want to add that. I'm going to hit create. And we're giving it a minute here. Do. Anytime. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So once you get to your classroom, you'll notice you have your stream, your classwork, people, and grades. The first thing I like to do once I get to my Google Classroom is check my settings, just so I can be sure everything's set before I send any codes out or do any such things like that. So to get to my settings, I'm going to head over to the cogwheel. I click there. I can see there if I wanted to change my class name, I can change it. I can add those other things that were optional before. My class code is listed here. If for some reason I don't like my class code, I can reset it. I can copy it and it stays to my dashboard, or on my clipboard, I'm sorry, or I can display it. That's more if you're in the classroom. Or if you're on a Zoom, you can show that to parents too. So if I wanted to reset my code, all the students that were in my class before will still be there, but they just can't use the same code to go in. So that's if you need to change your code for any reason. This one's an important one. For the stream, you want to decide whether or not the students can post and comment. You'll see you have lots of options here. If you have it so only the teachers can post and comment, that means only you or the co-teachers are able to post anything on the stream or comment on any of the things on the stream. If you have it here, that means students can only comment, meaning you can post, but the students are able to only respond to that. They can't post on their own. If you have it on this last one, that means students are able to post anything and comment on anything that's on the stream. So that's really up to you. Of course, I'm gonna say my recommendation is either start out with only the teacher or the students can comment. Instead of having students post and comment right away, That way you can get your expectations out to the students, and you can always change that later if you want to. So you can decide if you want the classwork to show on the stream. That is up to you what you decide you want to show up on the stream. If you're using the stream just for notifications, then I'd say hide the classwork on the stream, but that's up to you. Deleted items, that's up to you again. Guardian summaries are what parents will get if you sign parents up for it. So, or parents sign up for it, because you can't sign them up. They have to make their own decision on that. But if you do have parents, that allows them to get summaries of the work their child is doing in the class. And if you click there, it shows you an example of what guardians get. So I'm gonna go ahead and close that. If you plan on using Google Meet, this is where you can allow students to join or allow students to see the link. They will not be able to join if you're not in there to start out with. Let me repeat that. Students cannot join unless you're in there. But if you leave and students are still in there, the meeting still continues to go on, and it will not stop until all the students leave the class. So you want to make sure you are the last person in the room. So if you do plan on using Google Meet, you'll make it visible to the students. Sorry, got to generate the link first, and then you make it visible to students. If you don't want that link showing continuously, you can turn that off, but your link will still be there here, and then you can toggle that back on later. Grading is not something I'm going to go into right now. That might be something that we add later. All right, so I'm going to save up here in the corner. So now that my settings are all done, yay, I can actually display the code here too. And you can see I have the Google Meet link visible. If you want to change your theme, you can click there. They've got lots of ones already available for you. I know a lot of people are making Bitmoji classrooms. You can upload a photo here. If you do upload a photo, just be aware that the setting size of this is kind of unique. So you might want to Google finding out the size that you need for the header on your Google Classroom. I know that one thing that is on a lot of people's minds right now is, how do I get that class code to my students? How do I get them signed onto my classroom? So I know it varies depending on school site. Your principals may have told you one thing. So if they told you one thing and I'm telling you another, please listen to your principal. What we would recommend is using Synergy. Bhavani has created a PD on how to communicate with parents and students via Synergy. So you can always get that class code out to the students via Synergy. Another option would be if you have the students' emails, you can email it to them. You can always call and give the class code over the phone. If you're doing a Zoom with all of the students and parents to begin with, you could give your class code during that time. Another option, of course, is to do it via snail mail. It'll take a little bit of time, but hey, it'll get there, right? So if you want to send it via students' email, another way to do that is if you head to the people page, you can manually put students' email addresses in here, which is their 131 number. If you put that in here, please know that that does not add the student to your class. That only sends an invite to their email address. So if your student hasn't, checked their email, or they don't know to check their email, they'll probably never see it. But if they do know to check their email, or if you make a comment about them checking their email, they will get an email invite to join your classroom. So that is where you can add students. Once students have joined the class, you'll see an option to add a guardian to them. So that is how you would invite parents. So if you have parents' email addresses, which I know some are in Synergy, some are not, but if you do have parents' email addresses, you can add guardians. They still have to accept the offer, but you can still invite guardians via email address once your students are in the class. All right, so quick reminder on stream. Your stream is where you are going to put any types of announcements. This is not where you put any type of work for the students. This is just merely you click here and you might say, hello and welcome to our class. So you'll see who it's for. So it's for my current class. I can choose that it's going to all students, which it should because it's on the stream. I can still add something from my Google Drive, but it will not create an assignment for the students. It only allows them to view it. It will not give them access to it. I can add a link, I can add a file, or I can add a video. So once I want to post it, I can click here if I want to. So I can post it right away. I can save it as a draft, or I can schedule it. So if I know that I want this hello announcement to happen on, let's say August 3rd at 8 a.m., I can schedule that. So the students won't see that until 8 a.m. on Monday. So I can check here for my saved announcements and I can edit them again by clicking there. All right, so this is where you're going to put any information that you want to just announce or just share with the kids. Again, it is not for classwork. If I go to my classwork page, well, just before I go over to classwork, real quick, the stream is a great place for students and you to be able to interact with each other. But just keep in mind, depending on your settings, we talked about if students can comment or if they can post, that's on your stream. So if I want students to be able to comment on my posts, I have to allow that commenting in my settings. Otherwise, they're only going to be able to view it and not respond to anything. Now, if I go to my classwork page, this is where I want to create any assignments. I can create also here a Google Meet, or a Meet link. That sounds funny. All right, so if I create an assignment, I can also create a quiz assignment. When you create a quiz assignment in Google Classrooms, it automatically creates a form, a Google form for you. You can do it here, or if you have a Google form already in your Drive, then I would just do it as an assignment. Don't click here because this will create a form for you. You can ask a question. If you have commenting turned off for students and you ask a question, they can still respond to the question. You can also post material here. If you click reuse a post, you can either use a post that you used in a different classroom, which is nice if you have multiple periods. So if I've got 2 periods of Algebra 1, I can reuse the post from both classes. And last but not least is topic. Topics are going to be really important because they organize your assignments. So you may want to have a topic of Unit 1 and you've got all of your stuff for Unit 1 posted there. You may want to do it by weekly assignments, or maybe you want to do it by daily assignments. Up to you, depending on how many you're doing daily. But I would say weekly or unit or whatever your focus is. So if it's all on friendship or it's all on geometric shapes, any type of subject, that's what you're going to want to do for your topic. You can add a topic here, or whenever I click to do an assignment, I'm just going to go ahead and call this Summer Fun. Instructions are optional, but they're always nice to add there. If I click Add from my Google Drive, you can also add a link or connect a file or add a YouTube video, but most likely you're pulling something from your Drive. So if I am pulling from my Drive, let's say I am going to share, I just need something real quick. I'll click on this guy. So once I click on something from my Drive, I can allow students to just view the file. That means they can only look at it, they cannot edit it. I can allow them to edit the file, but if that's the case, every student is on the same one and they're all editing the same one. So really think about what you want here. You can also make a copy for each student. That means each student gets their own they can edit it, and they can do whatever they want on their own copy. So most likely you'll be having a copy for each student. Over here along the side, I can see which classes it's in. If I want to do it in more than one class, I can click multiple classes. I can also, once I have students in here, it will have a list of students, and I can select which students I want to have this assignment. So if I'm doing a small group, I can select just the students that I want to have with that assignment. Or if I need to differentiate for my students, I can also click there and give just those students the assignment. I can have a point value to it. I can add a due date. This is where I would create a topic. So if this is for week 1, then I'm going to keep that as week 1. And now, again, I can schedule it. I can save a draft. I can discard it. But I'm going to go ahead and assign it. And then, you'll see here, I got my topics along the side, which will be nice once your classwork page gets filled up, because the kids can just click on the topics along the side here. I can see it, I can edit it if I want to, I can delete it, I can change things on it. So that is my classwork page. Grades, like I said, we're gonna possibly cover that later, but for now, we're going to leave that one alone. So hopefully that was a nice little refresher for you regarding Google Classroom. If you still have questions regarding Google Classroom, or like I said, if you can't join a class whenever you're first trying in that plus screen in the beginning, right here, if it doesn't say create a class, let us know. Us TOSAs your technology TOSAs will be here for you. Email us, or you'll see that we have a place for you to book us via Zoom. So please do that if you need anything else. Thank you so much.
All right, so the first thing we're going to do for Zoom, for those of you that have not tried this yet, is you're going to go to zoom.us, and this is where you're going to find your ability to create different meetings for your students. So I'm going to skip a few different steps here when we get to creating a Zoom. I'm going to add the resource that we created in spring that had all the security settings that you should enable. I will touch on a couple things that are super important, but I'm going to leave a link in the description here that you can just access directly, and it'll give you the different settings that you might need right off the bat. So I'm at zoom.us. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. You're signing in with your Google account, so you want to make sure that you click that here, and then once you have your sign in, mine went straight through, but also yours might have a different authentication if you've never signed in before. Now, I mentioned there's a lot of settings that we can go through. I just want to touch on a couple different things. So over here to the left, you have profile, meetings, webinar, recordings, and then settings. Again, I'm going to highlight some. I'm going to leave a link of all the links of all the different settings that you should put on. But really important here is the waiting room. I can't emphasize this enough. Essentially what this does, it stops people from being able to enter your room directly, and it puts them in a waiting room, a holding room, and then you can communicate with people in there. So a good pro tip here, if you see a name inside that waiting room that you don't recognize, you can message the waiting room and say, hey, please change your name to something that is not whatever it is. So if you clearly don't understand who that is, or you're trying to look for some sort of sign as if it's a student or not, that's what that waiting room allows for. So really, really important. Now, some of the things we've kind of enabled by default. We wanted to make sure that the passcodes are all set, that everyone has that ability already kind of built in, and it makes sure that we're a little safe. This is a little tidbit here. Authenticated users can join the meeting. What that does, it forces people to sign into Google. Now, we've had some issues with it, so I created a tutorial on how to use this if you want to use it, but for the most part it's turned off because it forces people to sign into their Google account. If you want to be super safe because you're concerned about this, you can turn this on, but again, there's an extra step for students that have to log in, and it provides a barrier for them when they're trying to sign in on a Chromebook. So by default, I leave this off. If you want to experiment with that, go ahead and send me an email and we can talk about how that might help you. Now, by default, I turn these things off here, the host and participant video. We've had a lot of questions about what happens if our students can't turn on their camera because their bandwidth is low. Leaving the camera off does help with that a little bit. And then you'll see in the rest of our PD how to engage students without necessarily having to have their camera on, but can create some sort of other interactivity. Now, right off the bat, this is another really important piece, is mute participants upon entry. The students' homes are going to be noisy. There's going to be things in the background. So if you can mute them upon entry, that essentially stops them from having the mic be turned on and disrupt when you're getting students into your classroom, your digital classroom. The chat allows people to send messages to all participants. This is an important feature to make sure that you monitor, because in the chat you have the ability to put private chat, and if you have that enabled, then teachers the students can text and message each other. So keep that in mind. I would leave this off here as you're setting up your classroom. And then finally, the ability to do co-hosting. If you have other teachers that are going to be allowing you to share their classroom with you, or they're going to be jumping into it, the co-host ability allows you to do that. It's a great feature to be able to let in a PE teacher that is going to take over, or an art teacher that might be in your classroom, your digital classroom, or if there's an aide that you might need help with. So that allows for that. Let's go down finally to where it says Breakout Rooms. In Breakout Rooms, you want to enable this feature because it allows you to break down your classroom from a larger setting into a much more concise room. So you will have the ability to do that, but you have to enable it here in the setting. Allow the host to assign participants to breakout rooms when scheduling, so you want to click that as well. This is a very important feature if you want to use the breakout. If you don't have that enabled, it will not allow you to use that, and therefore you won't be able to access that. So as mentioned, I'm not going to go over every single piece on the settings side here. I will leave that link in the description so you can use that if you're feeling a little unsure about what the settings should be. There's a lot, but again, we've created that document to help you, a little cheat sheet so that you can access it and copy exactly the settings that you might need. Now, in the profile setting here, you'll notice there's a couple pieces of information. Mainly, you don't want to give anyone your personal meeting ID that you don't trust. I would just recommend having this not shown to your students. But the meetings is where you're going to go to schedule and create the links for your students. So to schedule a meeting, you're in the meetings tab here on the left side, and then you click where it says schedule a meeting, and then you add whatever time and date that you want. So testing here, you can give it a description, you can pick a date and a time. We can go down to August 5th here, and we're going to begin at 8 in the morning. So we'll do 8:30 for an hour, so on and so forth. You don't necessarily need to make it a recurring meeting. You can if you'd like, but that option is there. I'm going to go ahead and not leave mine there. This is going to be automatic here. We want this, the passcode, and that waiting room. Very, very important there. By default, we turn off the video, and then we go through these pieces. Please do not have enabled join before host. This will essentially allow your students to jump in the room before you. We don't want that. We want to mute participants upon entry. You can do breakout room pre-assign. I'll explain what that is here in a moment. And then the record and all that, I'm going to go ahead and leave that there for now. If you have another individual, another adult that you'd like to share co-hosting ability with, you can go ahead and just add their email there, and that helps you with that. So let's talk a little bit about this breakout room pre-assign, because it allows you to create the different rooms before you begin the actual meeting. So when you create room, you'll notice that you have these different participants, or the spot to add the rooms. So you can add as many rooms as you like and then put in the participants there. So if I'm going to go ahead and put some emails in here, you'll notice that I can add them here. Okay. And then it adds a name. I can move them after the fact if I want. You'll notice that at some point you will get to do this also in real time. It does not have to be just here. Once you put them in there, you still have the option in the breakout room to move them. So I'm going to hit move to, and I'm going to move this individual to room 3. So now I've got one person in room 1, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, so on and so forth. So you have that ability, and now I hit save. Now, the other component that you can do here is import from CSV. Now, this particular feature here requires a little bit of extra steps, but if you can get it right, it can help you immensely in setting up the rooms if you have a certain way that you want to set up your rooms on a consistent basis. All right, so this is a little bit more in depth. Obviously, so if you've never seen this, I went ahead and downloaded the template down here, and then I took that template and I put it in Google Drive. This is what the template looks like. These headers here, this needs to remain. Again, little slightly more advanced features here. If this is not something that you're interested in, I apologize for, you can go ahead and fast forward this a little bit, but the rooms here, you can pre-assign them and give the email addresses for what you want to do. The reason this is important is in this particular setting, you do not get to save this pre-assigned breakout room. You have to do this for every room that you'd like. So if you're interested in having a set group and having to assign the students in a certain way, then the way to do it is to create this CSV file that puts the room number next to the email address that you want, and then it adds that. Once you go into breakout mode, it'll pre-assign them into that spot. So that's the way you do that. It's not terribly complicated, but it does require a couple extra steps. I'm gonna go ahead and hit save now, and now it'll generate my meeting. So I've got my meeting. This link right here, as mentioned in our previous PDs, that's what you want to share with the students. Get that link to them via Google Classroom, get that link to them via email, whatever you need to do. That's what will send them directly into your phone call, your digital phone call, your video conference. All right, so you've got your link and you sent it to your students, and that's great, but you actually need to be able to start the meeting. Just to be clear here, you're looking for the start this meeting button on whatever meeting that you're trying to begin. Now, if you're not on this page and you want to get back to it, you want to get into your Zoom account. We've already kind of discussed how to sign into it, but you're looking for where it says meetings, and in your meetings, it'll give you a breakdown of the meetings that you've started or that you have coming up. If you want to schedule a new meeting, you saw that earlier, but then here where I go to testing, that's the one that I wanted to, and I can come over here to the right side and hit start. Once I hit start, that then prompts the dialog box, and then you can begin your meeting right then and there. All right, so here we are. We have one person now waiting in our waiting room. Just to be clear as to how I got there, in your settings here, you'll see that you have participants available, security, unmute, all this. So let's begin with the participants because it's an important note here. You can admit them directly from here or remove them. You can message them as well. So if you said something to the effect of, please change your name, because it's not something, they get that message in that waiting room that they need to change their name. So then they can do that, and then they can let you know that that is not who it is, or you can verify that it's the person you want them to be. All right, so then once I feel comfortable, I know who they are, I'm gonna go ahead and hit admit, and I'll see them in the participants list shift from the waiting room into the actual room here. And now I've got the ability to do a few different things here. While they join, they'll add their computer audio, their mic is muted, so you notice that in my settings, now I can't see them just yet until we turn those pieces on. But I have a little bit of granularity here. All right, so I've got my unmute over here. That's when I'm ready to speak, my video, all that good stuff. If you want to change your virtual background, we get this request a lot. You can do that from here. If you're on a Chromebook, this generally doesn't work very well, so I don't know that I would try that. But your video settings and your microphone settings all lie right here, your audio settings and all that. Your security settings are very important. Once you feel like you're ready to go and you don't want any more changes, you don't want people asking to come into your meeting, lock the meeting, and you can have that available. Now, if you think the students are going to come in later, I would not lock this meeting. Enable a waiting room. You can turn this off real time if you want to. I don't recommend that. Allow participants to share their screen. I don't do this until I feel like I can trust them to do that. This is a process to get them used to doing this, teach them how to use the screen sharing feature, but it is important for you to know how to do that. Chat feature, I allow them to use chat, but I also restrict them from being able to message each other. Allow them to rename themselves. Again, if you allow that ability to rename themselves, then when a student comes in, they can go ahead and get their name changed. So here is the name, and you always have this ability. You can always change a student's name to whatever you need it to be, and then or have them change their names if you want them to on their own. And then finally, you can remove participants. If there's a student in here that you want to remove, now I want to be clear here, if you remove them, they cannot join. So if this is a recurring meeting, they can never join. So you want to make sure that if you remove someone, it's for a good reason. The other option that you can do here, when you see a student, you can actually put them in the waiting room. So you don't remove them completely from the Zoom forever, but you can essentially put them on a virtual timeout. Have them cool down if that's something that they need to do. Give them a chance to kind of gather their thoughts and then bring them back in. And remember, you can chat with them even though they're in the waiting room, and it doesn't have to be in real time there. So, or it is in real time, sorry about that. Now, you can also stop someone's video. You can make someone a host and a co-host. I highly recommend you don't do that for students, but you can do that with different adults if you'd like. Allow people to record. That's disabled by default. You don't want that unless you're specifically trying to do something. And finally, remove. You can also mute all. If you have a lot of students and all of their microphones are on, hit mute all and it turns it off for everyone. It's a great feature. You can also ask all to unmute. This is a very fun and interesting feature sometimes. You never know what you're going to get, so I highly recommend that you consider that one before you do that. And then you have all these other capabilities here. You can go ahead and read them there. Now, I do want to point something out. In your screen share ability, this is a big point that Grace from the KidGrit PD was trying to kind of put in there. I'll reiterate that here. When you hit share screen, it gives you all these different abilities to kind of connect. One of the things is if you're going to share a video, please select these two pieces here. That allows the sound to come through, and it allows them to be able to hear you instead of it coming through your speakers and then out through the computer there. So through the microphone. So you want to enable that, and then that allows it to share. Now, the whiteboard feature that some teachers were asking, I have a solution for that in the Nearpod section. When you get to that, I'll point to that in that section, and it'll give you some insight as to how you could run this without that. All right, moving on to the breakout room, because this is kind of the essence of what this PD is all about. It is such an important feature to be able to turn on the breakout rooms for your students and then move them in there. Now, these are the 4 rooms that I created, and I had them in here. If students were in here, then I would have them be able to kind of be assigned. But at any point, if I want to relocate a student, I can absolutely do that, or recreate. I can recover to pre-assigned rooms. I can recreate all rooms. You have a lot of options here as to how you want to run this. Move all participants into the breakout room automatically. Allow participants to run the main session at any time. You can disable that so they can't jump to the main session. You can breakout rooms close automatically after 30 minutes. You can enable that if you had that turned on. Countdown after closing the room. So you can control that. This was a question that people asked. Can you control how long that breakout countdown timer is? And absolutely, you can change that if you need to. You can add a room on the fly. You can go ahead and assign students. Now, I only have 1 student here. I can assign it to wherever I'd like. I'm going to go ahead and assign there, and there that student dropped in. Now, on the other side, that student got moved, and at any point, if you want to move him or her to another room, you can do that just as easily by clicking on the student and seeing that. So when you have a lot of these open, it's great to see that you can kind of manipulate between the rooms and be able to move. So let's go ahead and start that now, and I'm going to move my students to their breakout room. Now, as you're doing that, you'll see that all participants have been invited to the breakout room. You'll notice that student 1 has not joined yet. So this gives you insight as to whether or not that student is there. If that student has been idle for a long time and then you move them to breakout room and they haven't moved, essentially that means that they're not there, or their internet might be lagging. So try to communicate with them and let them know what it is that you're trying to do. So I'm going to go ahead and join on this side, and you'll see that once I join that other side, that room now shows green because that student is where they need to be. But at any point, again, if I want to move them, I can. This is where you would go to broadcast the message. The message essentially goes to everyone that is in the room. This is how you're able to communicate to all of the breakout rooms directly. So message goes here, and again, when you broadcast that, it hits everyone's the top of their screen there, and it shows up for all there. And then I hit close all rooms, and that starts my 60-second timer. And that reminds the students that there's 60 seconds to wrap up their conversations, finish what they're doing, and I'm going to pull them all back. Students cannot stay in breakout rooms if you've enabled this. Once this timer goes, it forces everyone back into the main room, and you'll notice here that once they finally go into the main room, that they are no longer in the spot there. So this is a great feature for a lot of the small group conversations that we were talking about. You have this ability to do that right now. This is a free feature, hoping this never goes away, but you have this available to you. And again, this is the icon you're looking for, and you're able to assign students where they go. All right, so I'm going to wrap this whole conversation up around Zoom. I know I did not go through every single feature. We've made a video previously that you can access at any point if you'd like. It's on our website. It's our PD Phase 1, and you have that video available to go back through it and check it out if you feel like you need to kind of review. So I reviewed a couple of the pieces that are super important, but not every single setting like I did in the previous video. But the last thing I'll do is just how to end this video. So once you're in the Zoom call and you're ready to call it, you hit end and the end meeting for all. Please keep in mind that if you hit leave meeting, it does not end the meeting for all, but this particular forces everyone out of the room. All right, and so that wraps up our conversation around Zoom. Again, hopefully you've enjoyed a little bit of insight here, and you got a little piece that you might be able to use immediately in your first week or so of your classes. All right, so the next sections that you'll see for our PD will be centered around engagement tools and then Google Sites. Good luck to you all, and enjoy the rest of your day.